if I feel like this message is going to help me fulfill my passions. That's why we take scripture like God will give you the desires of your heart. So we think it means God will go fulfill my hot passions of what I'm feeling because I got a passion for something and I'm believing God fulfill this passion. And so he says, this is the problem. Shem first, which produces character. Ham, which means to be hot with passions. And Japheth, which means to be expanded, to expand or to open or to make room. But also Japheth could mean to deceive, to entice, to flatter or degrade. Because what happens with Japheth, if the passions are not under control, then you'll be deceived. Now let's see this. 3 sons. The reason why I had 3 sons, the reason why the message again in the 3 sons, because the 3 sons are a picture of something. When you're in a quiet place, it produces 3 things. Well, in us, there's our spirit, there's our soul, and there's our body. Which really our soul is still spirit. It's just, it's the decision place. The soul is the place where we make the decisions. The soul is the place where we, it's where we begin to, decide whether I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And so here it is, he says, in these generations of Noah, Noah was a just man, perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. Now, what does it mean that Noah walked with God? Well, here it is, quiet. The word walk means journey. It means to be clear, to shine, to give light, glory. See, it means to celebrate or boast. Funny thing was, here it is, he says, and it says, and we go back up in 6, in verse 3, Genesis 6, verse 3, he said, and Lord, my spirit should not always strive with man, or my spirit should not always contend, or should not always judge, or should not always fight. He says, my spirit is not always going to judge man. It comes a point where God says, I'm not going to judge man. That's what strive means. It means to contend. He says, I'm not always going to judge man because man is also flesh. In other words, he says this, my spirit is not always going to contend with your spirit because you are also flesh. So me, God and spirit, I'm not going to always be arguing or fighting or striving with you because you also have a flesh. He says, but yet his days shall be 120. Now this is the people messed up. 120, if think man gonna live 120 years. When we read on, you see that man lived long, 900s and so on. It wasn't talking about 120 in Hebrew again. 120 translated literally means man. It says this, I'm not gonna always strive with man, that man is also flesh. He says, yet, however, but his days shall, watch this, be the glory of God. The 120 means simply the glory of God. 120 translated as the glory of God, the glory of Christ. That's why when Christ said, it's finished, what? I've now lived my 120. I live the glory of God. I have demonstrated and showed the glory of God at 33. So my time is up. It's finished. What's finished? My days. I have now lived the glory of God. I have revealed the glory of God. I have now revealed myself to them. I have revealed the Father, the glory of God. I have revealed them to the disciples. Now it's time for me to go. So he says this, I'm not going to always strive with man. I'm not going to always contend with man because man is also flesh. Man has to strive with himself. The spirit in us is striving with the nature of our mind. That's our battle. We're battling ourselves. We think we're battling something outside of us when in actuality we're battling ourselves. He says, but when you overcome yourself, that's when you'll see the glory of God. So man's days will be the glory of God when man can overcome self. So he says this, he talks about Noah. In the quiet place, he's showing us how to overcome self by giving us an example of a man named Noah. But the story was never about Noah. It was about the example of what it is I'm calling you to overcome. So he says Noah in a quiet place, he's showing us overcoming. Noah in a quiet place produces 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Honor, character. Ham, passions, because in the quiet place, you're going to burn with passions. Because when you're in a quiet place, that's when you start to realize your issues. When you're in a quiet place is when you can now discern your passions. So he says Ham, which is a place of hot or passions, and then Japheth, which means to expand or to make room. That's when you're thinking. That's when you begin to, you understand more. You start to get in the spirit when you're in a quiet place, and things start to expand. You start to make room. Your territory gets enlarged because you say, oh, that's what this meant, and that's what this meant, and that's what this meant, and everything's starting to make sense. So he says Noah walked with God. In other words, that quiet place was on a journey. When you're in a quiet place, you start taking journeys. And he says this to be clear. Things become clear in a quiet place. Noah was clear, watch this, with God. God. What's God again? Understanding what really is. The word God, translated in the Hebrew, it means angels, sons of God, producers of angels, things you will become spirit. See, spirits produce spirit. That which is spirit is spirit. So when you call a son of God, you are a producer of the spirit. You are the product of the spirit. That's why Jesus was called the Son of God, because he was birthed out of the spirit. So are we birthed out of the spirit when we can overcome our nature, which means to be born again. It means the first time you came, you were born in the natural. But in order for you to inherit that which is in you, you have to be born again. How do I be born again? By leaving everything I see and going somewhere in a quiet place and start tapping within. And that's what he says here. Noah walked with God. Quietness is the very, it walks. It's the connection to the spiritual world. It's quiet. Quiet and spirit coexist. That's what it means. Noah walked with God. Quietness journeys with the spirit. It's the very connection. Still, be still and know. Be still and know. It is a connection. Still and know. How can I know? Be still. It's the very thing people can't do. Be still. So it says Noah walked with God. And now, and after be quiet, met or journey with the spirit, it produces three things. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Honor, character. It produces passions, but it also produces expansion and open, I mean room. Now watch this. Go over to Genesis chapter 8. Actually, go over to Genesis chapter 9. Let's begin at verse 18. Genesis chapter 9, verse 18. And he said, and the sons of Noah that went forth of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. There it is, these three again. The sons, or that which Noah, quietness produced, in that quiet place, he produced Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. Now, what was the purpose of coming out and saying Ham is the father of Canaan out of nowhere? Well, you understand, again, Ham means passions, desires. But watch this. Canaan, watch this. This is what passion and desires produces. Oh, watch this. Ham, which is passion and desires burning, it produces Canaan. The word Canaan literally means humiliation. Ham is the father of humiliation. Passions and desires are the father of humiliation. Whenever you're humiliated, it's because one of your passions and desires didn't take place. Humiliation. Canaan means humiliation. It means to cause a person a painful loss. It means dishonor, disgrace. to degrade. This is what Canaan means. So Ham, passions and desires, is the father of humiliation or disgrace or dishonor. However, quietness, Noah, produces a son named honor. But passions produce a son named humiliation. Now watch this. It says, and these are the sons of Noah, and of them the whole earth was overspread. Verse 19, these are the three sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth spread. The whole earth, you are a whole earth. Your body is the whole earth. And in your whole self, you are the earth. And this whole self is overspread with these three things. In you, there's honor. In you, there's character. In you, there's fame and position. In you, there's also passions and burnings. In you, there's potential to expand, to make room, to open. So he says, in these three things, the whole earth is overspread. Now here's the key. And Noah began to be a husbandman. And he planted a vineyard. Quietness, comfort, began to plant vineyard. And it says, and he drank of the wine, and he was drunk. And he was uncovered within his tent. And the word tent literally means, again, cover. It means temple, means home or tabernacle. He was uncovered. You understand? This is what happens. Rest. See what happens sometimes when you get at rest? You begin to uncover your issues. So when you feel peaceful and at rest, you start uncovering some things. But now, what happens when somebody at rest starts uncovering some things? Oh, somebody with burning passions doesn't want to cover them in their mess. They want to tell what you uncovered. See, he was drunk with wine. This is what wine means. The word wine literally means to be intoxicated or overpowered excitement of the mind or the emotions. So here it is. This man who was at rest, at peace, finally came to a place where he got overwhelmed with the excitement of his mind. So he says, let me tell you what I'm thinking. He got excited of the fact that at this quiet place, I had all kinds of crazy thoughts. Yeah, so he began to come out of this place of intoxication with his mind and began to really uncover himself. But Ham, passions, desires, burning. Saul, the father of Canaan, watch this, Ham, the father of humiliation. Here's a perfect way to be disgraced. Here's the perfect way of being dishonored. Here's the perfect way of being humiliated. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of the father. In other words, he saw that this man spilled his guts about his issues. And he said, and told his two brothers without. See, the two brothers had no business knowing the father's issues. Because why? I'm honor and I'm expansion. I don't care about your issues. Character. People with character don't care about people's issues. They cover them. People in character, people who are really honorable people, cover people's issues. Love covers a multitude of sins. So he says, and Ham the father saw the nakedness of the father, and he told his two brothers without. But watch this. Shem and Japheth, honor and expansion, took a garment and laid it upon